Alright, let's talk about RWBY again. Honestly, I feel kinda bad for this show. It's no secret that the series has been analyzed, criticized, picked apart, and rewritten by just about everyone and their mothers at this point. The fact is that RWBY's story has always been kind of a mess. Not to say that Monty and RT have never had any sort of vision for where the story would go. In fact, we have rough confirmation of the exact opposite. But even as far back as the original trailers, you can see hints that the narrative was just kind of written on the fly. It's clear that the people behind this show are still abundantly passionate about it, and that definitely shines through at times, but a lot of the damage has kind of been done, hence the fandom's general frustration with the show's direction. Honestly, I've been divided as to whether or not I should even talk about this show again after my Cinder video because I wasn't sure I could really say or add anything that others haven't already done a billion times over at this point. Everything from mishandled character arcs to faulty world building and even character designs have been talked about to death by the RWBY fandom. It wasn't until recently that I've had a bit of an epiphany about something that I honestly haven't seen many people talk about, at least not that often. So I figured it might be worthwhile to throw my hat back in the ring and offer my 2 cents on this subject. So, semblances. In the world of Remnant, everyone is born with their own special power. Such abilities can range from physical enhancements like super strength or super speed to more abstract abilities like passively controlling luck. Now, the world of Remnant has like 5 different power systems in play, and there's a whole discussion to be had about the connections between semblances and aura, or how semblances differentiate from magic despite that thin veil that seems to divide them. For the sake of brevity, though, I'm just going to simplify things to the best of my ability. So, in RWBY's world, people can draw on their own souls for power. This primarily manifests as aura, which effectively acts as a force field around someone's body that allows them to survive things that would otherwise be lethal. Aura can be broken, though, and different people have differing amounts based on how much they've trained themselves. Semblances are also supposed to be a manifestation of the soul. Specifically, they are stated to be an extension of aura itself. In some cases, semblances can even be inherited, though the only example we've ever seen of this is the Schnee family semblance that allows them to conjure glyphs. As a whole, it's a cool premise, but it was kind of butchered in execution. Let's briefly address the most glaring issue. Semblances are established to be a power totally disconnected from magic. In the world of Remnant, magic is supposed to be this ancient, almost otherworldly ability that only a few people can wield and fewer still believe in. Those who use magic are supposed to be capable of miraculous or even terrifying feats that go above and beyond what any normal person on Remnant is supposed to be capable of. Feats that boggle the mind, even to those who have semblances. So let's list off some of the things semblances can do, shall we? Opening portals, storing things in pocket dimensions, summoning tendrils of energy from your arms, summoning ghosts of enemies you've defeated in the past to fight for you, summoning duplicates of yourself, conjuring illusions, controlling magnetism, controlling a specific element, freezing people in time, to name a few. So, with that established, what incredible feats can magic perform that semblances cannot? Well, you can fly, turn into a bird, control more than one element at a time, even though dust kind of allows you to do that anyways. Summon energy barriers, fire beams. Yeah, are you starting to see the problem? With all the varied and fantastical things that semblances can do, it's sort of hard to buy into the idea that magic is somehow that much grander or special. I mean, sure, stuff like Maiden Powers or Ozpin's Cane are capable of destruction on a much larger scale, but even then I wouldn't be all that surprised if there were semblances out there capable of rivaling them. And that brings me to an even bigger issue that I'm genuinely surprised I don't see talked about more often. Why are semblances seemingly so rare? Like, again, every single person on Remnant is supposed to have one. I get that they normally have to be unlocked or discovered, and this is usually done in high stress situations, but like, just think about how often in this show that entire towns come under attack. Why don't we ever see civilians or even soldiers using semblances to protect themselves? I mean, if you lived in a world where every single person had their own special superpower, regardless of whether or not you wanted to fight monsters for a living, would you at least try and unlock yours? Like, imagine you're running a shop and someone walks in trying to rob you. Wouldn't it be handy to just have the ability to, I don't know, mind control them into dropping their weapons and leaving? Or imagine you're running a club and someone comes in and starts a ruckus because they've had a little too much to drink. Would probably be nice if your bouncer could just, like, paralyze them with a touch or force them to calm down by just staring at them. It just feels bizarre to me that semblances don't have a greater impact on remnant societies as a whole. In a world where literally everyone can have their own unique power, it feels like civilization itself would kind of have to adapt to that. There would probably be laws in place regarding who's allowed to use semblances and when. Governments would probably want to register what every person's power is, etc. If a major crisis occurs, like a Grim attack, you'd also expect to see at least a few civilians, I don't know, turning invisible or teleporting to safety. I mean, if semblances are supposed to awaken in high stress situations, you'd imagine a fair few bystanders would wind up unlocking their semblances during said invasions. Like how Ren did, for example. Okay, so we've addressed the problems with semblances. Now, the question must be posed. How would I remedy this? Honestly, the solution seems rather simple. Just say that semblances are unique powers that only a few special individuals have rather than the entire population. In fact, why don't we say that semblances, rather than being a manifestation of someone's aura, are actually just a weaker form of magic? Perhaps instead of actually wiping out the entirety of the old humans, the gods of light and darkness actually left some survivors, maybe even unintentionally. Instead of humans literally evolving back to prominence from scratch, we could say that a handful of people aside from Salem were left alive, and they were the ones who slowly repopulated the world. However, because only a few of these survivors were mages, the practice of magic as a whole becomes a shell of its former self. After enough time has passed and the old world is all but forgotten, magic lives on only in a handful of bloodlines. Most people have forgotten that true magic even existed, and none actually know the original origins of the power they now call semblances. However, those who possess them are unwittingly tapping into different schools of magic that existed in the old world: augmentation, illusions, elemental, conjuring, and distortion. Augmentation revolves around enhancing the user's body or physical abilities in some way. Boosts to strength, speed, and durability, for example. Powers that allow the user to physically transform would also fall under this school. Illusions are pretty self-explanatory. Any power that involves deceiving another person's senses. Elemental magic would, of course, be anything that involves controlling or manipulating an element. Admittedly, I'm not sure how this would interact or impact the role of dust in the story, but that's a whole other discussion to be had. Conjuring would be anything that involves summoning, whether it's familiars to fight for you or just spectral limbs. Finally, distortion could be any ability that affects reality itself, be it manipulating space to create portals or influencing probability. While those with semblances could still be capable of a myriad of impressive feats, only Salem and Ozpin could freely use any and all forms of magic. Perhaps you could even show them using stronger versions of other characters' powers to really hammer home how they're on a different level from what modern humans are capable of. Also, there are some characters that I think could frankly just do without semblances, like Ironwood or Coco, whose canon powers are never actually shown and only just kind of written retroactively, and also they're just kind of redundant and totally unnecessary. As a whole, semblances are a cool idea, but their actual utilization in the series has been sloppy at best. The simple fact that anyone and everyone on Remnant can have a power creates a myriad of problems for the world building as a whole. Problems that could have been avoided had they just been made a special and rare power that only a handful of individuals could use. But what do you all think? Do you like Semblances in RWBY as they are, or should they have been written way differently? Leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I'll see you all next time.